Come on, we're saying.
Yes.
I'm the guy, I forgot this one.
That's what you said it was okay.
That I did, indeed.
Kind of.
Make yourself at home.
That means 6:30, not 4:30 or 5 o'clock.
That's okay.
On the east side.
If I didn't.
I got a chance for the days that
Yeah. Just okay, perfect. Email me and I'll put it in the folder.
I'm
Great.
to go for both, but
Really? That is it?
really, there are lots of
Yeah, it's the same paragraph over and over again, just each with a different name of the tribe leader. One at the beginning, one at the end. Rest of the words are all the same.
all the same, so if I.
If you do one, you can do all 7 days.
Really?
All 8 days. There's 8 days.
Okay, put me for both.
All right, send me an email. Very well.
Yeah, I guess, okay.
All right. It's time to get started, everyone. Hi. I'm just going to move a little closer. There we go. So, last week we did an introduction to Trope. I put a copy of the video on YouTube, and then there's a link to that on the B'nai Adult B'nai Mitzvah webpage, which is kehillatbethisrael.com/ABM, Adult B'nai Mitzvah. So you can catch up that way if you weren't here. But we'll do the important part of our learning from last week, which is a little bit rushed in the end because I thought we had all this time and then all of a sudden it disappeared, which is wonderful because when the class goes fast, it means we're having a good time and learning. This week we will do a review of Mercha, Tipacha, Munach, Etnachta phrases, and you'll remember that Etnachta phrases have, just go back a little bit here, have 3 helper tropes. I know it's small on this screen. Have 3 helper tropes. It's Mercha, Tipacha, and Munach. And when you put them all together, you get these 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 combinations. So let's do some repeat after me on this, and we'll just welcome Raz, and we'll just get started that way. So and a review for anyone who was here last week, and a little bit of a catch up for anyone who wasn't. So Etnachta, Etnachta, good. Tipacha, Etnachta. Tipacha, Etnachta, Mercha, Tipacha, Etnachta, Mercha, Tipacha, Etnachta, Tipacha, Munach, Etnachta, Tipacha, Munach, Etnachta, Mercha, Tipacha, Munach, Etnachta, Mercha, Tipacha, Munach, Etnachta. Good. So, and we will go on to the next session. Just have to keep remembering to shrink the screen back. Okay, so this is our randomly generated exercises with the words on the screen. Ignore the gray box. It just means where it would start playing if I started playing it from the computer. It's not exactly the same as we do it, but it's fun to show you that it can do that. Anyway, ignore the gray box. Just try and see through it to the trope. So this one's Mercha, Tipacha, Munach, Etnachta. Go for it. Mercha, Tipacha, Munach, Etnachta. We'll do these repeat after me a couple more times, but then I'll just turn the page and we'll go together. I'll say 1, 2, 3, and we'll go. So this one, do the same one again. This one, 1, 2, 3. I didn't do what I said I was just going to do, so I thought it was backwards. I was going to say it first, but you got it. Let's keep going. Like that. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, and if it's a disaster, I'll stop you and do it again for you. I don't think that's going to happen. 1, 2, 3. Good. And this one. And this one. That one. We'll do a couple more. And this one. Good. All right. Next exercise is the one with the boxes, where we sing the trope, but it doesn't list the names of the trope. So here, for example, we're going Mercha, Tipacha, Munach, Etnachta. Yes. And this one? Etnachta. Good. And this one? Tipacha, And go. And this one. Good. Just for fun, we talked about a little bit about chironomy last week. Chironomy is hand naming. So before the tropes were written down as symbols in tikkunim or in chumashim, we had hand symbols that the helper of the Torah reader in ancient times, and not just ancient times, we do this to this day sometimes, where the Torah reader could read Hebrew fluently, didn't need vowels or anything because they're Israeli, right? And so, but the thing that they didn't have was the trope in front of them. So somebody would stand beside the person. They didn't have to prepare at all. The person would stand beside them with a copy of with the knowledge back in ancient times, with the knowledge of what the tropes are supposed to be, and he would give hand signals. So, for example, mercha tipecha would be mercha tipecha munach etnachta. Okay, this is simple for etnachta. Eventually, those became written down. Nowadays, in modern times, we still have people who will do chironomy in the air for the Torah reader. Perhaps also a strong Hebrew reader and somebody who understands Hebrew, so they get the gist of the words and the phrases and the meanings and so forth, but haven't memorized the tropes. Then somebody will just stand with a chumash in front of them with the tropes, and they'll sign the symbols in the air, right? So it's kind of fun. All right.
Do you ever do related to solfege, like so you know what starts relative to what else? Like that would, for me, that would really help. Like is it do so or whatever it is?
You mean like? Do you mean have like written notes for the?
Transcribe.
So.
Or even the relatively, so it's like with do re mi.
No, because it's not Western music. That's the tricky thing is it's not exactly Western music. So now I will tell you this program where I can produce tikkun sheets for people who are learning to read Torah, any Torah portion, what have you. It will actually produce a music line on the screen, and you can print out just music for it. But that doesn't really help because you have to read it from the Torah ultimately.
But just learning those symbols, if you relate it to, like, because you have the relative start note of, they start on different notes. All four of those. Well, two of them start on the same, I guess.
Yeah. So this is what this program will do. So you've got mer, and again, these are the notes that they programmed in for this trope, which, as you heard when I pressed the play button before, is not exactly what we do. But here is da 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 da, which is not quite mercha tivacha munach etnachta.
But that's not that. Isn't etnachta is a much bigger than a second there?
Well, see, the thing is, this is.
Or maybe I'm
You're putting your finger on something that's quite interesting to note, is that the important note of etnachta, for example, if you have a one-syllable word, is the ta.
Right.
And it's just ta, and that's why one note is highlighted. Because it doesn't really matter, like it depends on what the words are. So you can't overall just rely on, every etnachta is going to be yum bum bum, like etnachta. So if you have a one word like od, you just do as we saw, or as we saw.
Yes, but if there's ever any pickup notes, they're always, I don't know, it helps. I can't remember things just in the air. I need to have it like.
Well,
I'm working on a sheet. I wrote all the numbers, like, because when you did like the first degree of the scale, second, third, I have all the numbers already written out, and I have that paper. I was going to do it.
So like etnachta would be 551.
Because I needed to. So yeah, I can show you if it's helpful.
If that's helpful to learn, sure. The thing is, you have to be careful how many steps we insert before we get to reading it out of the Torah. Because but whatever works for you, do it. But not every resource will provide that far back because it's not Western mode.
Did you share it? Yeah.
Okay, let's go on. I'm going to turn off that music for now. Okay, let's keep going. Here's the next one. Tibecha, 1, 2, 3. Tibecha, munach etnachta. And this one. tibecha etnachta. And this one. Mercha tibecha etnachta. And this one. Mercha tibecha munach etnachta. Good. All right, let's go on. Okay, we did that one. We did some words, so we'll do this at these exercises. These are actual words in the Torah with this exercise is demonstrating when the Etnachta is on the last syllable. So we will have pickup notes or pickup note. Home, right? So we'll do this. Let's do the first one. 1, 2, 3. Home, Levina, and then that one. 1, 2, 3. Levina. Good. Mibesori and go. Mibesori. Good. All kinds of syllables coming up before the accent. 1, 2, 3. Atishachuvo. Good. And the next one. Bechol basar. And this one. Or. Right. Exactly. We just discussed that. That's a fun one.
I wonder how much this influenced some of the late Middle Age and early Renaissance Jewish musicians to go into different scales than the octave scale, because, or how much, that may have also influenced old canonic music.
It probably did a lot. Everything that was standard and was repeated would be picked up by
in some
way, shape, or form, right? Good. And so this is the some examples of words where the Etnachta is on the penultimate syllable, second to last syllable, and there are not always pickup notes before it or pickup syllables before it. So sometimes we just go right to the ta note of it and say all the syllables on that note. So like this one. 1, 2, 3. Lila. Right. Lila. Just for clarity, make sure we're all doing that same thing. Lila. Okay, good. And the next one, Hamayim. 1, 2, 3. Hamayim. Good. 2 syllables before the trope. 1, 2, 3. Larakia. Good. Va'avarecheka. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Va'avarecheka. Good. When this program has, this is the convention the program uses for shva na, that's the pronounced shva. It'll be a big, thick shva versus like here, the lila. You see that small trope, that small shva. This one's a big one. That means it's pronounced va'avarecheka. Ka, because it's kaf sofit. We don't often see that. It does. We do often see it if we do the same prayers all the time. Like in the Birkat Kohanim, for example, Ya'er Adonai Ta'anav Elecha V'chuneka, right? So there you go. Okay, good. So that's that, and then more words randomly chosen, or at least it looks random to us. Etnachta phrases that are actually in the Torah. So Et HaBeracha, 1, 2, 3. Et HaBeracha. Good. And this one, let's read it. We can read it slowly. 1, 2, 3. Va'amaleki ve'hakena'ani yoshev ba'emen. Yeah, it's tricky because we're doing multiple levels of thinking here. We're reading these particularly long words, looking at the accents of the words, because the trope shows us where the accent is, remembering that. Very important concept. Remembering that green means we have to attach it to something else. It's a helper trope, so don't take a breath after v'ha'amaleki. And we're also obviously thinking of the music notes while we're doing all that. So yeah, it's a tricky exercise. Let's do that again. Let's just do this on this phrase. V'ha, 1, 2, 3. V'ha'amaleki v'hakena'ani yoshev ba'emek. Good. Ba'emek, right? Trope on the second to last syllable. Ba'emek. Good. Let's do the next one. Et tzitz nezer hakodesh zahav tahor. 1, 2, 3. Et tzitz nezer hakodesh zahav tahor. Well done. And this one. 1, 2, 3. Litila ushem ultifaret. Good. Ultifaret. Ultifaret. Now, very, very important, just a Hebrew thing. I come across this with the name mitzvah students, but I'll bring it up here as well. Not ultifaret. It's not fa, right? There's no fa in this word. There's tif and aret. Olives and ayins impart glottal stops to vowels. Right? Ul-tif, aret, a break in the word, and then you retake the vowel.
But doesn't the, I forget the name of the vowel there, the small
Shvana.
shvana, doesn't that actually implicate a glottal stop in itself? 'Cause you're not saying you're just going
Yeah,
teeth.
But that's
Like
not
even if
slow.
there was no olive.
you're correct.
afterwards.
But not automatically because, for example, if the word is tifde, it's not tifde, right? It's gotta be, it's only a glottal stop if it's an
No,
olive,
but
right?
it's teeth dead, not teeth dead.
No, there's two schwas. Shvana and shvana, and this
Yeah,
one
yeah.
is the smaller one, it's not.
I think Greg is saying that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying the small one
It only-
implies a glottal stop.
No,
in the first
No,
place.
it doesn't, it doesn't.
Oh,
Just the olive implies, or the ayin implies a glottal stop. Because like, for example, tifde, the face has a shvanach under that word.
okay, maybe I'm not using the term glottal stop properly. What I mean is, those two dots when they're small imply that the consonant is, I don't know what the right term is for it, but it's teeth, not teeth.
Yeah.
That's what a small shval means.
That's what I'm trying to
That's
say.
all, that's all.
Right,
It
but to
just means
me,
it's not
I
pronounced.
thought that was a glottal stop.
No. A glottal stop means, so I'll demonstrate again. You know when you take a drink of water and it's really, really refreshing and you go, ah, right? So, that release, that explosive release of air is because that little flap of muscle that covers our esophagus, that covers our trachea, so that when we drink or eat, that food doesn't go down there. It's automatic, it happens by itself, but we can also control it. Like when we go, ah, or if we want to, what's that? Ululate, yeah.
But when you go,
Exactly. So, right. Okay. So not to get graphic. Anyway, that's the controlled feature where you're putting that flap of muscle over that, and that flap of muscle is called the glottis, right? So a glottal stop is where you intentionally close that gap over the trachea, which stops us from breathing until you release it. So that's the same thing here. Aret, not ultif faret, but ultif aret. A little gap, that's all we're asking. Okay, good, let's go on. Okay, this one, 1, 2, 3. Sur yiladecha teshli. Okay, so what's happening here? So we have mercha, tibecha, etnachta. Now, the problem is the etnachta, the trope is on the second to last syllable, so we can only do the ta on that word. But we have an extra note hanging off the end of the previous word. Sur yiladecha. So instead of, no, that's not that we have an extra word, an extra note. We're going to put the etnach onto the note of the yiladecha, onto the tipecha, so that we can pretend that it's a full etnachta. Sur yiladecha teshi. Now you have the full sound of the, otherwise it's sur yiladecha teshi, which is not very flowy. It doesn't flow well. So we're going to add the extra etnach notes to the yiladecha, because we can lengthen any notes we want, any words we want, with extra notes. It's called a melisma in Western music. We just add more notes to the same syllable.
So does that always happen when the trope is on the last syllable?
When the trope is on the first, when the etnachta is on the second to last syllable, or mostly on the first syllable. Distinction here, Iris, you brought up a very interesting point, and this is the nuance. You don't have to worry about too much until you see it. But the reality is, the trope is either going to be at the last syllable and sometimes on the second to last syllable, very rarely on the third to last syllable. It does happen a few times. But here, when the second to last syllable equals the first syllable of the word, that word will have no pickup notes to be able to do etnach and then do the ta, which is there, tesh. So we're adding an extra note onto the yiladecha. so yeladecha. That's normal. Mercha tibecha. So the etnach, we're gonna add on to the notes of the yeladecha. So yeladecha teshi. See that? And a little bit of a break with the voice because it's an orange trope. You can do that. So yeladecha teshi. That's it. Okay.
Sorry,
Yep.
so if the etnachta is on the first syllable, you always do that?
It depends on the word before it also. That's why I mean, you'll have to see when it comes up and we'll discuss it. And it does take practice, but it's also kind of intuitive. Like if you know what a mercha, tibecha, and an etnachta are, and you're given the words, we'll probably say, that doesn't sound good unless I finish the syllable. That doesn't sound good unless I sing the end of the beginning of the etnachta. And that does take time. I don't want to take for granted that it is natural for me, but it might not be natural for everyone at first. That's okay. We'll get the hang of it. Let's see what else what we have here. So tibecha o el hashofet. Wow, machine with 3 dots around it. So this is just Hebrew stuff, but the dot on the right makes it a sh, not a s. The dot on the left is an o vowel, right? And the dot inside makes it a hard consonant. So almost as if it's double. Hashofet. Like in Italian.
Because it was 2 S's instead of 1.
Correct. Okay, so oh, 1, 2, 3. Oh, el hashofet. Good. And this one, the vowels are kind of hard to see, but it's yochazemu ra'ad. This is going to be another one of those. Okay? So maybe the answer to your question is yes. Every time it's on the first syllable and there are no syllables first, we're going to need to borrow now. So 1, 2, 3. Yochazemu ra'ad. See that? Now the tibecha here is on the second to last syllable, so we can use the note of mo to put on the etnachta. So it's like we're moving mo to rad. Mo ra'ad, right? I'll do it again. Yochazemo ra'ad. So that's probably what it's getting at here to answer your question exactly.
So you went down and you're on the
mo.
zay, and then again down on the mo, like.
Yeah, so tibecha, it does come back down. So I'm doing all of the tibecha note on zay. Yochazeh. I'm using the mo as the pickup for.
Instead of going yochazeh mo or ra, no that
Yeah, because
mo ra, like they didn't do
I
that.
see what you mean, right? Because we're trying to put all of the notes of the tibecha on the accented syllable, which is the zay. Yochazeh. Yochazemo ra'ad. There is a distinction because the trope isn't on the mo. We want it clear that this is the accented syllable. Because if you go yochazemo, that to me sounds like mo is being accented, but we don't want mo. We want zay accented. Yeah, great.
Is it fair to say that another part of why you're extending the first word like by another note is that you want to end up lower than the next, than the
Yes, because
you wouldn't hear it going up on the next word if it was ending.
No, it's only because the etnachta has a lower note to begin with, so we want to find a way to put that lower note in. Yochazemo ra'ad etnachta.
Yeah, because if there was no o, then you wouldn't hear in the because it would be yochazeh it's the same note.
Correct.
So you actually want
to
hear the sound of going up.
It separates the tropes and makes them distinctive. Yeah, distinct, yes. That is one feature that's also answering the same question over here, is that we're trying to make each trope as distinctive as we can, separating them to the syllables that they line up on. It's a little bit of like marionetting, puppeting. Like you have to line the things up, and that's the best way to line them up cleanly. Yeah. Okay. If you did yochazemo ra'ad, no one will stop you on the day.
That
Right?
just seems more intuitive to me, but okay, it's just me.
Yeah, the reason we don't is so that we're not accenting the mo.
Yeah.
Okay. Lechatei et habayit shetei tziporim. 1, 2, 3. Lechatei et habayit shetei tziporim. Good. Any questions on that? that's pretty straightforward. Let's do another one. 1, 2, 3. Ve'ata arur ata. Ooh. Okay. Why? So this is pausal form. We're learning not just Torah. We're learning a lot of Hebrew grammar stuff here. So whenever you have the word ata that is on an etnachta or on a sof pasuk, that means if it's before a comma or a period, if you translated that into English, that becomes pausal form, which means that we move the accent from the last syllable to the second to last syllable. And if it's a word with two segols in it, like gefen, if the word was gefen, we would actually, if it was an etnachta or sof pasuk, we'd change that to gafen in Ashkenazi tradition. Okay, so that's why we say Borei Pri HaGafen, because it's pausal form. Some people don't do that, like Sfardim say Borei Pri HaGefen, because they don't do pausal.
That's why I've heard two different pronunciations of that.
Exactly. So
Also,
here,
there's like esro instead of etro.
right, that's
T.
yeah, that's an Ashkenazi thing as well. Although we are Ashkenazi Jews, we aren't pronouncing things with modern Israeli pronunciations, and that's why it's etrog, not esrog for us. Okay, so the same thing is happening here that Iris absolutely loves, or hates, I can't tell, is that the ata, the etnachta is on the first syllable, second to last, but it's equal to the first syllable. That means we need to do the low note of arur. We need to do the etnachta, one more note on arur. So the ata, arur, arur, ata, right? So normally, the ata, arur. Well, you can't go ata. We don't do that. Okay? We don't do ata. Okay? Because that removes the syllable from ata, and we want to clear this ata. The ata arur ata. One more time with me. The ata arur ata. That's it. Good. And this one. 1, 2, 3. Ki faru ahu. Did you get that one? Same thing. Same
No, but
idea.
it's different there, isn't it? Because you went, the two syllables are on the like
The
a part.
So the trope is on the ru, right? That's the second to the last syllable of farua. So we can use the a as our etnach. Ki farua ata. Two notes on ru because they're all.
You did, yeah.
It's the same idea.
So in other words, if the word faru didn't have the ayin, didn't have it was just the two letters, the and resh.
Yeah,
It would be faru
ata.
or
Who, sorry, yeah, who.
So because you then have to drag out the ru.
As many as you need to make
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Okay, just want to make sure I'm on the right track.
Right track, exactly.
But isn't in the Haftarah also you put the accent on the word where the trope is?
Torah, Haftarah,
Yeah,
Megillah,
yeah,
all that.
so that's the kind of the commonality.
Yeah.
Otherwise, to me it's confusing otherwise. Okay, that's the only way that I can figure it out.
I get it. That's why all these rules are baked into these trope symbols. Okay, Vayavo el aviv, Vayomer avi. I'm kind of giving you some hints here because. Anyway, 1, 2, 3. Vayavo el aviv, Vayomer. Sorry, I threw you off. Vayomer avi. This one's straightforward, right? Vayomer avi. Good. Let's go on, and I won't ruin that for you this time. 1, 2, 3. Nasi echad mimaten. Good. And this one. Asher bahen hadaga. This one would have been hanega. So that's a pausal form right there. Accent on the second to last note, and the segol turns into an ah.
Do you mean it would have been nega in Sephardic or?
Yes, or in the middle of a sentence. So that's not at the end of the phrase. Okay, one more and then we'll go on. All right, 1, 2, 3. Al re'enu le'orgo ve'orma ve'orema. I'm being picky here, but yes. If you said ve'orma, you would not be stopped on the day. Ve'orema Oremat, and same here, le horego, because it's kamatz katan. It's a big version of the kamatz versus this small version right here, right? This is the big version.
With the
So
teardrop.
ironically, kamatz katan, which means small katan, is printed bigger in this program. Okay, all right, let's go on.
So I just have a question at this point. So what is the difference in sound between the smaller and the larger?
Kamatz, small kamatz, just T-shaped is and the large one with the teardrop, or sometimes you'll see text where they just separate the dot, is kamatz katan, or kamatz katon, and it's pronounced o.
Oh, okay.
My
But
favorite.
in,
I love how
in Vayal Kol, is the Kol,
yeah,
Kamatz
kamatz katan, yes. And even if it's not, it's a rule of thumb that if it's kaf lamed with a kamatz under it, and looking like it, it's always kol. That's a word that's,
Yeah, it's an exception.
Okay, good. Let's go on to our sof pasuk phrases. The most common trope phrase of this is the sof pasuk phrase. Why? Because every single sentence in the Torah has an end of sentence. Whereas not every sentence has an etnachta because it might not be long enough. Every verse that you will be chanting ends with the sof pasuk. Note the colon here at the end of the sentence. This is a sof pasuk, meaning end of verse. The sof pasuk is colored red to indicate that you have to pause after chanting the sentence. You must stop. You may not attach another word. It's not a helper trope. It only gets helped. Okay. Now, the problem is that on a word in a sentence, here, just look at this for a second. The colon indicates our end of sentence, our sof pasuk. It's a period basically. It just uses the colon. The problem is that's always after the end of the last word. So how do you know which syllable is accented? Well, easy, because in exactly the same color, they've added a little symbol that shows us which is the accented syllable. So in the word pasuk, suk is accented, so they put this little symbol here, on the accented symbol. That symbol is called a meteg. Plural of that is metagim. Some words do have two metagim if they have a primary and a secondary accent. Lahit ma'mea. Heat is a secondary accent, and mea is the primary accent.
And does that symbol under the vav before the kaf, does that indicate, is it also a trope indicator as well in terms of how you're going to say that word, like pasuk? Or could it be a different set of?
No, so the colon and the meteg, when they both go together,
Yeah.
you'll always see them.
No, but in terms of the notes,
Well,
the relative pitch.
I'm going to do the notes and you'll see. Sof pasuk rarely appears by itself, like Etnachta. Sof pasuk is helped by two tropes we're already familiar with, mercha and tipecha. So that, and then the same mercha. So mercha, tipecha, mercha, sof pasuk. So this is, we did etnachta before, now this is sof pasuk. Hear how final that is? It's the end of the song.
So do you always have to try to end sentences with that going down?
Not try to, you have to.
Okay.
There's no choice.
Sorry, when I say try, I mean, there could be exceptions. There's no
Sof
exceptions.
pasuk,
Okay,
ends
no
like that.
exceptions.
Yeah. So mercha, tipecha, mercha, sof pasuk. So let's just try that. 1, 2, 3. Mercha, tipecha, mercha, sof pasuk. And so that is what we're going for new here. All these other ones are familiar. So let's go through our examples. There's 5 lines as well. Just like Etnachta, it goes like this. Sof pasuk. Go for it. Sof pasuk. Repeat after me. Repeat after me. Repeat after me. Just so everyone can hear it clearly first. Tipecha, sof pasuk. Tipecha, sof pasuk. Mercha, tipecha, sof pasuk. Mercha, tipecha, sof pasuk. Good, and I like how I'm hearing from every single one of you. I can tell it's every single one of you because of the way it works. Is that you're putting a little bit of a separation between tipecha and sof pasuk because it's an orange trope. That's exactly right. There was no break before after the mercha, which is exactly right also. So mercha, tipecha, sof pasuk. Good. Next line. So now Tipacha and Mercha are reversed. We still do the pause after the Tipacha, and then we go on without stopping after the Mercha. So Tipacha, Mercha, Sol Pasuk. Good, repeat after me. Mercha, Tipacha, Mercha, Sol Pasuk. Okay, you're ready to go, you got it right. I just want to make sure that I'm hearing. See, when I'm singing, it's not as easy for me to listen out into the crowd to hear if I need to make some corrections or help some people or whatever. So when I say repeat after me, I mean literally wait till I go first and then you can do it. But that was fine. I think everyone's on that same page, and we're ready to go on to our exercises. So this one is just random combinations, just like we did before. So go ahead. 1, 2, 3. Mercha, Tipacha, Mercha, Sol Pasuk. And this one? Sol Pasuk. And this one? Mercha, Tipacha, Mercha, Sol Pasuk. And this one? Sol Pasuk. Everyone's going to give us something different. Nope. There we go. 1, 2, 3. Tipacha, Sol Pasuk. Good, you break that in. Okay, 1, 2, oh gosh. Okay, this one. 1, 2, 3. Mercha, Tipacha, Sol Pasuk. And this one. Sol Pasuk. And this one. Mercha, Tipacha, Mercha, Sol Pasuk. Good. And this one. Mercha, Tipacha, Sol Pasuk. Are we ready for our boxes? Let's do that. 1, 2, 3. Mercha, Tipacha, Mercha, Sol Pasuk. There's 2 boxes on the Sol Pasuk because they want to make it clear that the meteg doesn't have to appear on the same syllable as the Sol Pasuk. So there's a number of syllables, number of tropes where they'll put 2 boxes for us. That isn't 2 different tropes. It's just showing that the accent could be on a different syllable than the trope appears. We'll see that on Tlisha Ketana, Tlisha Gedola. We'll see that on Munach Segol. We'll see that in other places. Yeah, Emily.
How do the notes change when the accent is on the first?
Let's do that in the context of real words, because it's a little too abstract at this point. And we're going to see that. This program is very good about pointing all the things that can frustrate us. Right? Okay. So let's do this one again. 1, 2, 3. Mercha, Tipacha, Mercha, Sol Pasuk. And this one. Sol Pasuk. And this one. Tipacha, Sol Pasuk. Good. And this one. Mercha, Tipacha, Mercha, Sol Pasuk. And this one? Tipacha, Mercha, Sol Pasuk. And this one? Tipacha, Sol Pasuk. Good. And this one? Tipacha, Mercha, Sol Pasuk. Good. We'll do a few more of these. Repetition can get boring, but it also is drilling it in really well. So it's valuable to keep doing this a little bit. Let's do this one. 1, 2, 3. Tipacha, Sol Pasuk. And this one. Sol Pasuk. And this one. Mercha, Tipacha, Sol Pasuk. Okay, careful. Tipacha, not Tipachar. Just be careful of that. So let's do.
Is there a reason why there's no munachs in here?
Because there's no munachs in a Sol Pasuk phrase. Remember what we said, we can go back actually, that, oops, that's forward. So all of the like Etnachta, Sol Pasuk is helped by 2 tropes, not 3, right? 2 tropes, Etnachta is helped by 3 tropes, right? Mercha, Tipacha, Munach, Etnachta, and in the case of Sol Pasuk, it's just Mercha, Tipacha. And it could be, there's still 5 examples because tipacha and mercha can switch.
Right.
So it gives you that combination as well to practice. Good question. Okay, so now we have some words. I love how it starts with like 7-syllable words. Bayarkatayim, right? 1, 2, 3. Bayarkatayim. So the same discussion about pickup notes. Sof, pa are the pickup notes, and suk are the trope notes, right? Sof pasuk is essentially, if you have nothing else, if you have 1-syllable word, it's yam bam. Okay? So bayarka is your pickup note, and ta'im is your main note. Ta'im, right? Strongly. Strong because there's a meteg under it. That's how you know that's the second to last syllable. Good, let's do another one. Yeah.
They're saying the siluk symbol. Is there a difference between meta and siluk?
No, siluk is part of the word that Sephardim and Chabad use for the same symbol. Meteg, it's the same thing, meteg. And because of that, the whole trope is sometimes called siluk. Like mercha, tibacha, siluk. It's just a different word. It's the same sound. Well, it's the same sound if they're using Ashkenazi, Israeli, Western trope like we are. Otherwise, it could be a different sound. Like if I set this to Sephardi, it's probably going to be a different melody altogether, right?
It's Fardi or Sfarad?
Savahad.
No sense.
Because right, we're Ashkenazi.
Yeah, this is no
It's
sense.
it's nuanced. But anyway, et besarecha me'alecha. 1, 2, 3. Et besarecha me'alecha. Good. Just grammar speak here that yud, whenever you have echa, or several other conjugations that refer to possessiveness, echa or av, like echav, his brother, right? Or our brother, whatever it is. So the yud is silent. It's not me'alecha. It's silent yud. Okay. Et besarecha me'alecha. Good. And this one, 1, 2, 3. Vayitzav otam zahav. Good. And this one. Miyamin yamina. Good. And this one. Otam tochelu. Good. And this one. 1, 2, 3. Bechor Yaakov Reuven. And this one. La'asher be'aholo tikahu. So it seems already that Sof Pasuk is easier to manage than Etnachta. Part of the reason for that is because Etnachta only has 2 notes. Etnachta and Sof Pasuk has 3 notes, right? Sof Pasuk. So it's going to give us more flexibility with real Hebrew words, right? Okay, maybe that wasn't clear, but did you notice how you haven't stopped and said, but how do I do that? So that's really good. Let's go on a couple more. Masach petach ha'ohel. 1, 2, 3. Masach petach ha'ohel. Good. And this one, somechot achareihem. 1, 2, 3. Somechot achareihem. Good. V'tibita oto nechoshet. 1, 2, 3. V'tibita oto nechoshet. Good. And this one, 1, 2, 3. Imo hitmo shilshom. Good. Any questions or anything so far? So far, so good. All right. Hey, let's make it a little higher. Hey, malini. Oh, do it before you. 1, 2, 3. Hey, malinim aleichem. Good. And 1, 2, 3. V'eit hakaporet. Well done. 1, 2, 3. Va'alitem et ha'ar. Good. Let's go on to the next exercise. Okay, good. So we have graduated. Really? There's not a lot of exercises because it's very straightforward. Another clue. Are you all comfortable with that, or do you want to do more of Sof Pasuk? Okay. So after the basic Zakeif Katon phrases, we start getting into a more advanced overview. So we're getting longer sentences. Now that we have enough tools, or soon we'll have enough tools that we can read whole sentences with all of these trope, and we will start getting those as examples. So the text is going to be smaller print, and we'll start seeing all these things. But basic Zakeif Katon phrases, basic Zakeif Katon phrases. Remember remember what? It's a red trope. So that means it's a stopping point. Like Etnachta and like Pasuk, we have to take a breath after it, and no word attaches onto the end of it. It can't be a helper trope. It only can be helped, right? The color of Zakeif Katon is red, to indicate that you have to pause after chanting the word, but don't let that word pause mislead you. A word that is segol, like geffen, right? If it's in the middle of a sentence and has a Zakeif Katon on it, it's not causal form. So you would say geffen. Even though we pause on the word, it's not causal. It's not a comma or a period in that sense. Okay, Zakeif Katon helper tropes. Zakeif Katon does appear a handful of times by itself in the Torah and Haftarah. In other words, like right after another red trope. Not by itself, because there's no one word sentence that's not a Pasuk. And there are no one word sentences. But anyway, so what that means is you could have a red trope, like an Etnachta, and then immediately followed by a Zakeif Katon. And it sounds weird because it's very sort of jarring. Like, well, I'm not going to do it yet because we haven't learned the sound of Zakeif Katon, but we're going to do that in a second. The vast majority, most of the time Zakeif Katon appears supported by other tropes. One of the tropes that you've already learned, munach, is found in the Zakeif Katon phrase, often just before the Zakeif Katon, but it's going to have its own musical sound, different than any other munachs that we have or will study. And that's why we said in the first lesson, which you might have missed, it's because I saw you panicking already. Don't think of it as a munach and an etnachta, a munach and a segol, a munach and a pasuk, not pasuk, but a munach and a revi'i. Think of them as groups. Munach zarka, or munach segol, munach revi'i. Think of it as a group, and then you've got the tune built into that. Anyway, so the vast majority of Zakeif Katon phrases include one or more of the following helper tropes. Pashta, do that. Pashta. Good. And it looks like it sounds. Pashta. Imagine tossing a ball in the air. It starts low and goes high. Right? Pashta. And that's what it looks like. Many Sfardim use the name Kadma for the trope. Pashta, which Ashkenazim is called Pashta. We have another trope, Kadma. It's the first one on our cheat sheet that I showed you last week. And it basically sounds the same. Okay, so Kadma, Munach Sarka, Pashta, Kadma, they do sound the same in most instances. We'll get to the exceptions later. Anyway, Pashta, 1, 2, 3. Pashta. Okay, Munach, the Munach before Zakeif Katon is kind of dancey. I don't think of it as like a little, like a cartwheel. Munach, so it's going to go Munach, Zakeif Katon. Try to do that combination with me. Munach, Zakeif Katon. And of course, no break because the Munach is a green trope. So Munach, Zakeif Katon. Go. Munach, Zakeif Katon. And Mapach. Really? Mapach, Zakeif Katon? Is that what they're saying? Yeah, but sure, you could have it mapach, Zakeif Katon, you almost never have that. What you do have is mapach, pashta, Zakeif Katon. So most of the time when you have a mapach before Zakeif Katon, it's going to have a pashta in the middle of it. So mapach, pashta, Zakeif Katon. Sorry, pashta, Zakeif Katon. I did the break wrong. Mapach, pashta, Zakeif Katon. We'll get there, you don't have to have that just yet, we're just about there. For the advanced student, that's you guys, a comment about trope names. Some Ashkenazi teach that the trope munach followed by Zakeif Katon are called Zakeif and Katon. I disagree. Okay? So it's, except when we're going to get to the end of Naliyah, that's going to be look a little different. Because it's going to sound like a Zakeif and a Katon, but we'll get there when we get there. So what that means is that they're saying that in some people call this munach the Zakeif of Zakeif Katon. It's not, because it's munach and Zakeif Katon. It's a compound word, like right here, right? It's got a dash in it, so we call this one word. That's just a little regional variation thing. Strictly speaking, and according to most scholars of biblical cantillation, the trope Zakeif Katon is called Zakeif Katon, and the trope munach is called munach. The names you see in these lessons depend on the choice of melody style that you've chosen to work with, so we've already chosen it to be Ashkenazi modern. Okay, so Zakeif Katon phrases, here we go. The vast majority of Zakeif Katon phrases take the following forms. Pashta Zakeif Katon, Pashta Zakeif Katon, Munach Zakeif Katon, Munach Zakeif Katon, Mapach Pashta Zakeif Katon, Mapach Pashta Zakeif Katon, Mapach Pashta Munach Zakeif Katon, Mapach Pashta Munach Zakeif Katon. Good. Careful not to do an extra note on the pashta, because then you're going to head into another trope world, and that's going to conflict. Pashta is not pashta. That's something. That's not it. That's actually a tipecha at the sof aliyah. We'll get into that later. Okay. Ma pashta munach zakeif katon. Do that last one. Ma pashta munach zakeif katon. Good. All right. We're heading into our exercises. Random combinations of these tropes as they appear in all the combinations in the Torah. 1, 2, 3. Mapach Ashta Munach Zakeif Katon. By the way, mapach, this is what I try and give students, when I'm teaching B'nai Mitzvah students in particular, I try and give them some sort of visual clue so that they can start relating the shape of the trope, if possible, to the sound of the trope. So mapach, I usually end up extending the, it's like this, right? So I usually end up extending the top line down, so it's a down arrow under the word. I point out it's under the word, so it's probably a lower note. So it goes downwards, unlike pashta, which shows you above the note and upwards. So mapach, pashta, munach zakeif katon. Yeah. Okay. Let's go on. Yeah. Great.
Question about the previous. So the munach is here going higher. Munach. But in the original series that we were doing, it was munach. It was going lower.
So that's exactly why I say don't compare them.
Right. So in other
the same.
words, this doesn't tell you whether it's going to go up or down.
You have to look at the next trope.
You have to look at the next trope.
That's right.
So it's entirely based on what this needs, what will happen. But what does this actually signify if you can just,
What does the munach signify?
this particular one? What, if it doesn't tell you that it's gonna go up or down?
You just,
It
so
doesn't
what, part of what
down-
we're doing is we're learning and memorizing what the sounds of each trope are.
Okay.
So I'm basically saying,
Okay.
trust me, this is what the tradition says is the notes.
Yeah,
And when the note is munach zakeif katon, it's ya da da da, and you just have to, we have to memorize
so
that.
that green line, that
Yeah.
green symbol,
Yeah.
doesn't, what does it signify if it's not telling you the note, the relative note?
Well, it's telling you that it's one of these sets of notes. One of,
Okay,
that's why you have to.
okay, so it's like a
a
family of possibilities.
a helper, it's a helper,
Understood.
yeah.
Okay, good.
A family of possibilities.
I
like
just
that.
needed to know what it does tell me.
It sounds so warm and loving.
Sorry.
Could you just sing the difference between the mapach and the munach in this case?
The mapach, so let me find one
With both, maybe?
screen. So mapach, okay, and munach. So yeah, it's one note different, right? They both start yada,
Yeah.
but munach in this case has yada.
Okay.
Mapach, munach. Just to put them side by side.
Yeah.
right?
And then the pashta is pashta.
Yes. So mapach, pashta, munach, zakeif katon.
Got it. Thank
Yeah,
you.
connected, of course, with screen trope. X.
So this is probably a bad question. 'cause
No such thing.
the first munach that we learned,
Yes.
and this munach, They're the same except there's another syllable, like does it start on the same
I wouldn't
note?
even compare. I wouldn't even
See, I told
compare.
you it was a bad question.
No, it's not a bad question. In fact, it's good for us to realize that it's okay to let them go. Let them be separate. If we wanted to compare, we could, but it doesn't serve any purpose when you're actually learning it. Because you're not gonna say, well, for a moment, you're gonna say, what is this munaf? And you're gonna look at the next syllable, and then you're gonna say, oh, munaf Zakeif Katon sounds like munaf Zakeif Katon.
I just want to know about the start note. Is the start note the same? The move?
No,
No?
no.
Okay.
No, there's gonna be no pattern to a munach. It's just based on what the next note is, and you'll learn them as a package. Munach, Zakeif Katon. Okay,
Is that better enough for you?
The other one
Yeah.
was Muna.
Right.
Which is
but this one's
3,
mu.
2, 1.
Yeah.
Okay. And the
I-
other one is 6, 5.
Yeah, I was actually just gonna ask the same thing, which is like I don't know if I'm getting too into like how does this work in Western notation, but it seems to me that the Etnachta was based on kind of like a do-so thing.
Yes.
So, and these are so do. It's kind of like
Pashta, yeah.
yeah, pashta, and so like this is more like dominant versus tonic.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. And what you're doing there is you're relating to Western major scale,
Yes.
which we said in the first class. Oh, you weren't here in the first class.
I was.
You were. So we said, that's right. We said that Torah trope is most closely connected with the major scale, whereas Haftarah is most closely connected with the minor scale.
So
You have forays in both cases to somewhere else. Yeah.
it's just, if we can relate it to that major scale, it just helps a lot. Like I feel like, otherwise it's just like in the air and you have no idea where to.
Right, it's memorization. That's part of that's part of the reason I'm not doing that. Like I have the access to the notes here, but I'm trying not to do that so that we don't introduce an extra step. It's like when a kid reads Hebrew and comes in and they go ma, pach. Now it's taken an extra 50% longer to read the word if they've just gone ma, pach. Why do they have to repeat the first syllable? You already got it, move on. So we're singing the notes. Let's use that as our solfege. And certainly we can hear it as a dominant and a tonic, and we can hear it as a subdominant, whatever it is. It's an extra step, and I'm just concerned that we'll spend more time trying to figure out what notes are if we then, this happened, there was
These are different
I'll
letters.
just close on this because this is a good spot to stop anyway. There was a member of our congregation who desperately wanted to sing his Haftarah using the way he learned the trope in Montreal, which is based on the British Haftarah trope. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher different than we would do here most of the time in the synagogue. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Same trope shapes, but he wanted to do his whole Haftarah in British trope. And he, with about a week to go, he transcribed the entire Haftarah into musical notes, and it was so complex that he ran out of time. Like, got to the day before the Torah, he'd only transcribed half of it and was totally lost and couldn't continue. So,
But it's more just
if he
the
had just
beginning.
listened to the audio file over and over and over again, or at least followed
It's
it, or
like
something.
you're going to be learning a new musical etymology, like solfege.
System. It's a system.
You're learning a new solfege kind of thing.
That is actually, I like that a lot. This is a different
But
solfege.
But it's not,
Yeah, it's,
but it's just, it's oral, like there's no, or what's the word, oral, AU.
yeah.
It's not, written, and if you're a visual learner, like I've actually done, read from the Torah, completely learned it by ear, and that's what.
Most people do, yeah.
With not knowing trope at all.
Right, most people do.
So, but if I'm learning trope and then to me it was just like, so I've done it that way, and I still think that this, for me, this way I would learn, that having that musical notes is just so helpful.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
Yeah,
But just
the
as a
program won't
starting
do.
point, not a week before, you know.
Right.
Then
Right.
you can jump off, because
Right.
once you've got that, you can let go of it.
Because of the regional differences, and from synagogue to synagogue, you're gonna find differences. From Balkore to Balkore, you're gonna find differences. This will not give us enough of a standard notation for you to sink your teeth into it and really understand it that way. I think it's better for us to just sort of, I can't tell a visual learner, don't learn it visually, but maybe Emily's trope sheet at least might be helpful.
Yes, Emily's.
Maybe Emily, if you wanna share your trope sheet with me and I'll share it with the group.
Okay, I'll send it to you.
And then at least that's your base, sort of package.
Yeah.
It's not every trope, but it's gonna be the standard.
Yeah.
Emily will be the Rosetta Stone.
I like it. All right, good. So we're done for today. Next week we will pick up with, starting again with basic Zakeif Katon phrases. We'll practice more of that. We'll hit real words, the boxes, the real words. Fantastic. Keep up the good questions. There is not a bad question, I promise. I'm happy to answer everything I can answer. And you guys are singing amazing. Have a good day, everyone. And it's,
For this course.
it's, you know how we have our web page and you can find some things like a slash? No, just do kehilatbethisrael.com/ABM, adult B'nai Mitzvah. kehilatbethisrael.com/ABM.
Thank you.
Did everyone hear that? I'll upload this video. kehilatbethisrael.com/ABM, adult B'nai Mitzvah, ABM. You can write it down.
It's, what is?
I can write it down.
No, that's okay, I've got it.
It's Kehilat.
I'm not saying you can't, I was just saying.
It's Kehilat
All in one, .com
/ABM.
ABM.
Okay, I'll remember that, that's easy.
Yeah. That's, I tried to pick a 3-syllable thing.
Here, like what was for? Oh, it's not.
Yeah.
No, there's
And you
also.
can, that's something I should mention. Everyone, I know that we're only got a few people here, but when you're doing trope, when you're practicing to read from the Torah, you can still rely on the audio file. Like, this gives you an awareness, but you can still learn it by rote. You can still learn it by listening and listening and listening.
That's probably how it's.
You can still, even though we're learning like how to do intimately, how to do every one of these tropes, what they mean, what the nuances are and all that, ultimately, if you're gonna do some Torah reading here, let's say, I'll give you the sheet to learn from, the Tikkun style, where it's Torah side and not, with all the vowels, tropes, and everything, and this other side without, and I'll give you an audio recording, and you can still learn it by listening to the audio recording. Maybe writing out, with enough notice, writing out your notes, whatever you like to
But
do.
you know what?
So all of those techniques are still in our toolbox. I'm not throwing any of your experience out in doing this.
But there are interesting things, because when you look at the one, it's close to the combination.
Yeah, and since I have no musical
You know,
theory
that
background at
stuff
all,
is
but I
to
have
pick up
a
the
really good ear, I'm gonna probably learn it entirely by rote.
There is.
Be careful not to confuse yourself though.
Oh, no, I'm not confusing myself.
Okay.
Because they did it differently. It's a very different tonality and it's a very different.
Yes and no.
Oh, the Milton?
Yes and no, but there is some things that you
Okay.
can pick up for as a human, which
Yes.
is what I said.
Well,
That's true. So some of these can be confusing, but they can also be helpful.
You know, the Western music tradition, and you have a tradition where.
Yeah, I think it's mahogany.
That work, you know, at least Jason will.
All right, let me stop the camera.
Have any sort of sense of.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
But then you would just, but see, for me, I learned that
Tradition to learn.
foundation